This is the Longfellow ballpark and playground, and Nathan and I just got here, and we've discovered there's a lot of changes made since we were here the last time.
I'll pan over and show them.
We used to have our family reunion here, the Corbin reunion, and things have changed a lot since that. When I was a kid, I'm 89 years old now. On Saturday I turned 89. But when I was a kid, I lived in Longfellow. Longfellow isn't a town or anything, it's a place. And this is part of Longfellow. I can remember years ago when they played baseball up in my mother's field. That's a little ways up the road here. And finally they got together and built a ball field here and a nice playground and a park. And a lot of the additions that they've made to it is like this pavilion right here where we're sitting, and
like all those buildings and stuff over there by the actual ball field.
Yes, a lot of different things have happened.
Like this building I'm zooming in on right now is where we used to have the Corbin reunion. Inside of there.
Yes. So we started going down to the Malta Park because it seemed to be cooler in the summertime.
Yeah, that building over there is unbelievably warm in the summer.
Yes. And there's trees down at the Malta Park, and also a creek that the kids could play in. But this is, for a small place like Longfellow, they've really done a lot of work here and spent a lot of money. So they must have some people with interest in the playground, and the playground section is right over here. And I can remember when we came here for a reunion, the younger people played ball, and it is a very nice place. Can you think of anything else to tell, Nathan?
Well, we were talking about the Corbin reunion, and I know ever since we started going to Malta Park, Uncle Sam used to demand that we start coming back here.
Yes, because we were born and raised in Longfellow. He thought we should have our reunion in Longfellow. And there was a lot more Corbins than there is now. I used to have 5 brothers and 5 sisters, and now I have 1 sister, and she's in a nursing home. I remember, one of the things I remember about Longfellow, there's down across, besides the trains on the track.
Yeah, we got a train going by.
And down across the field from where we lived, there was a nice big creek, and we had our own swimming pool. We dammed up the creek, and all the kids in the neighborhood would go there in the summertime, and I don't know if you call it swimming or splash around, but we had a lot of fun, probably more fun than if we had a fancy pool. And we'd say to my mom, is it all right if we get down to the creek and go swimming? And she'd say, well, you have some work to do in the yard first. You have to dig up some plant and weeds and dandelions out of the yard before you go. So we did that, and then we were allowed to go. My mother believed in making the kids do little jobs around the house, work. And those were the days when we had a garden. The boys worked in the garden, cut wood, and the girls had to clean the house and wash the dishes, all that sort of thing. And sometimes we would fight over whose turn it was. You know, it's not my turn, it's your turn. My mother was a very strict mother. She made us go to church, and I'm glad she did now. She never missed a Sunday going to church and Sunday school. And she raised her kids the same way. I never lived any place where you couldn't hear the trains going. When I was over at Linda's over at my daughter's last weekend, and she has a house up in the woods, and we were sitting there, and I said, you know, I don't think I've ever lived any place where you can't hear trains going. You can't where she lives. It's very quiet in the woods, and they see deer and squirrels and things like that. I think this ballpark is called the Baldy Coffin Ballpark. Baldy Coffin was one of the guys that played ball and was good at it. I don't know if it's on one of the signs or not, but I think that's what they called it.
It says in memory of Paul Kaufman Jr.
In memory of Paul Kaufman Jr., and that's who we called Baldy Kaufman. I don't know why. I don't think he was bald. Anything else you can think about?
Tell the YouTube people a little bit about Aunt Marg.
Oh, I lost one of my good friends last week. My sister-in-law, Sam's wife. And I tell you some of the things that I got up at the funeral and said some things about her when they asked if anyone had anything to say. But I remember how she liked to take care of people. She took care of Linda when I had Gwen. She took care of Nathan one time. I don't know where I was.
And I don't usually get on camera for this, but I want to talk about this. When I was, not real little, maybe about 10, 11 years old, I can remember Aunt Marg taking care of me because my mother wasn't able to pick me up, and you were somewhere.
Yeah.
And she came down to the school and got me. I had the worst case of poison ivy a person could have. I mean, head to toe. And she took care of me for that whole day. She whipped up this concoction out of baking soda and vinegar or something like that and dabbed it all over me, and it actually helped.
And she was in a glory when she could take care of somebody.
I know.
She took care of Sam. She took care of her dad. She took care of her kids, and she loved to take care of people. And you really enjoyed going up there, didn't you?
She always had something for me to do, or something to tell me, or she try to feed me or something.
Give you something to eat.
I remember she used to take me up around the cemetery and we'd walk around, and one time we sat up there with her and we just counted all the different color cars that went by. Like she'd count all the white ones, I'd count all the red ones or something like that. And then we did that for a while when you used to put me on the bus in the morning. That was something Aunt Marg taught me.
She just passed away last
Tuesday.
Tuesday? Yeah, yes. And her funeral was Sunday.
It would be a week today.
That she passed away.
Yeah. As of what we're recording now, I don't know if I'll put this up later today or tomorrow or what.
One of the things I said about her, she was my sister-in-law, but she was also my sister.
Yeah.
So I will miss her.
Yeah.
She didn't have much of a life anymore. She had an apartment down at the nursing home in Woodland, but she mostly stayed in her apartment. So, do you want to go on up the road, Nathan, and see what else we can see? Or?
Yeah, let's find a spot other than here and see what else there is to talk about.
Okay.
So we'll be back here in a little bit.
This is Bossinger Lane, and when we were kids, we rode sleds down, and it was a dirt road then, and it had breakers across it. When you hit it with your sled, you bounced. And my dad had made us a big sled, I guess you'd call it a bobsled, and a lot of kids could get on it, and even had a steering wheel on like a car, and a running board to put your feet on. But it was very hard to pull back up the lane once you came down because it was
I can imagine, because that goes pretty far up.
And there wasn't the traffic on the road that there is now. When you came down across here, you you really didn't have to worry that much about a car coming or anything.
Yeah.
But we had a lot of fun in Bossinger's Lane sled riding. And the Bossinger kids, I think their mother had a baby about every time my mother did, so we always, my best friend was Lynn Bossinger, and so there was just about one for every Corbin kid. There was a Bossinger kid. And we went to a one-room school right down the road here. And we lived very close to the school, so we could just run right down. We didn't have to walk very far. Some of the people had to walk maybe a mile in winter and cold weather to the one-room school, but we were very close to it. We could run home for lunch.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to show you Bossinger's Lane.
Yeah. Well, let's find another spot. All right, where are we now?
Well, we're looking at the Juniata River between McVaytown and Matana. And
there it is.
Juniata, I think, is an Indian name. And at one time there was an Indian village near here, because on the island,
which is over there, it's just kind of hard to see.
They used to collect Indian arrowheads and other Indian relics. So we knew there was an Indian village in this area someplace. And the old Indian's chief name, his name was Chief Matana, but the English people call it Matana. And the little village up here is Matana, where we are now is part of Matana. And the fish access area is right here, but it's not very nice. And there was an article in the paper where they were going to make a real nice fish access or boat launching area right in here.
Yeah, instead they just left it this mess over here.
Yeah, and it would make it nice for the fishermen if they would have made it a boat launching place. And I suppose somebody with a pickup can drive down here and launch their boat from here. But there's certain times in the year when you see a lot of fishermen. I don't know what kind of fish they do catch, besides bass and carp and some kinds I wouldn't want to eat out of the river. I wonder if they catch these fish. I don't know if they use them or not, or just like to fish. It's when I went to school, we always had to ride across on the school bus. We rode across the island to get to the McVaytown High School. And in fact, when I was younger, the buses didn't haul the high school kids. So we had to walk from McVaytown over to Matana and catch the bus at the Matana schoolhouse and go home from there. And then finally they did start hauling the high school kids also. And from when I was young, we walked many times, probably 5 or 6 miles from Longfellow up to McVaytown. If there was a ball game or Memorial Day parade or something like that, we would walk to McVaytown. People don't walk that far anymore. For us, we were used to it. Wherever we wanted to go, we walked.
Unless you're someone like me and you walk 10 miles down an abandoned highway.
Yeah. And people like to camp along the river. The whole way along the Juniata River almost, up toward Ryde, down toward, and up toward Newton Hamilton.
Yeah, it's all plastered with a bunch of campers.
Camping areas. And the people that come from the city think it's wonderful.
All they've done is build a tiny trailer court.
And trailer courts along the river. When we went camping, we went out in the mountains, either down in Licking Creek or up in Carlisle Gap to Mountain Inn. And my family grew up loving to camp. we'd always like to go to a camp. And in the evening you had weenie roast and you made s'mores and told stories and sometimes you told ghost stories to try to scare the little kids with. Never saw a ghost, did you, Nathan?
I'm gonna say maybe. But that's another video that we're working on, so I don't want to talk too much about it.
I don't even think I ever saw one, maybe. I think you have to believe in a ghost to see it.
Well, I have a video in the works with Kyle and Natasha that's going to go up on the channel at a later date. We just have to go back to a place we're going to visit. And that's all I want to say about that.
I could see why somebody would enjoy sitting along the river. It's peaceful to watch the water, and sometimes you see a boat out in the water. Sometimes you see a fish jump. And well, there I just saw one jump. And
Well, tell them about some of the things you were pointing out to me on the way here.
you mean down Longfellow?
Yeah.
Well, there's a tombstone. It's all by itself, and it's right before you start up over the Allegheny Hill down at Longfellow. And they say I know it was a soldier from
We got another train.
it was a soldier, and they said it was from the War of 1812. And it seems like every place we go that we're close to the railroad.
I might have to put subtitles in this one.
Well, anyhow, like I said before, I probably never lived any place where I couldn't hear trains. Sometimes they're closer than others. Right now here, they're going across the Matana crossing, and trains have to blow their whistle like that when they go through a crossing. And I think it's 2 longs, a short, and a long. And I can hear them at night, and I try to count them. 2 longs, a short, and a long, when the trains go past the crossing, Matana crossing. Back in 1936, I would have been 10, 11. There was a really, really bad flood on the Juniata River. We had a really bad winter that winter, and then the snow was on the ground really high. And when that snow melted and it rained in the spring, we had the 36 flood was one of the worst floods that we ever had on the Juniata River. And I can remember it. I can remember seeing houses float down the river and other things, chairs out of people's houses, different things that would float down the river. We lived, thank goodness, we lived far enough away from the river that we weren't in the flood, but we could look down across the field and see the river when it was high like that. 1936.
I remember a few years ago we had a little bit of a flood, and the road down below the house there was covered.
You mean up at Newton Hamilton?
Yeah, up home there.
Yeah, the road into Newton Hamilton was covered, and the road up through Kistler was covered. There was no way for us to get out that time, was there?
Not a couple years ago, no. Because the way people used to go down along the railroad, you can't get there anymore.
Didn't you get out to Newton Hamilton with Eddie and get into Newton on a boat or something?
No, Kenny went out on a boat.
Oh.
I didn't do it because I didn't want to, because I don't like going out on boats.
Especially when the river's in flood stage.
Yeah.
This area of the whole United States, this area is one of the most prettiest places there is. We traveled cross country already through California and back. Colorado's a pretty state, but when we got back to Pennsylvania, we always said, this is the prettiest, one of the prettiest places in the United States. And we used to gather a lot of wildflowers down along the creek where I lived as a child. And we used to have to make for our, oh, there goes a duck.
Yeah.
For our science class at school, they wanted us to make a book out of wildflowers. And we would press the wildflowers and put them in a book and try to name the wildflowers. I learned from that a lot of names for wildflowers, like spring beauties, jack-in-the-pulpits, houndstooth flowers, Dutchman's breeches, wild columbine, Queen Anne's lace. That duck's sitting out there on the stone.
Yeah, let me get a shot of that. That
it.
duck is totally just sitting out there on that rock. If I can get a shot of them.
There's some more.
Yep, they're taking off. Oh man, there's a whole bunch of them.
Did you get a picture of them?
Oh, I got them.
Good. Oh, that was a nice picture.
Yeah.
I liked the way when he was sitting there in the rock.
Yeah, I got him right before he took off.
Can you think of anything else we could?
Well, I can't think of anything, so what's your final words for this one?
My final words are, yeah, I'm so glad that my mother taught us kids, to enjoy nature, and we always have, and to try to preserve nature. And I think that's why we like the mountains and the camping and that sort of thing. And the river is beautiful. And I pity people that don't appreciate what God has given us. Even the bugs are pretty bad right here.
Yeah.
Should have brought some bug repellent with us. So I'm glad we got to see the ducks. I'm glad we got to see the river and
And not too many people who are 89 get to share this kind of stuff, you know, with people watching things like YouTube and stuff.
Yeah.
So, you know.
I can't believe I'm that old. I find that Nana's going to be so old I'd have taken better care of myself. I just had a birthday on Saturday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. That's 3 days ago.
Yep.
I think we'll move on along.
I think this is a good place to end this video, because we've been out all day.
We're moving out now, and don't step back there because there's poison ivy.
Right, so I think we're going to call this one done, don't you think?
I think so.
All right.